Hey everyone, Matt Sperling here. We've only got part of the spoiler for Modern Horizons 3 as I sit here today recording this. It says part 1. I'm going to give you the Sperling sick of it takes, stuff that's already upsetting. There might be a part 2, depends on what they fuck up in the rest of the set. This could be the only part. That's up to them. I'm sort of powerless to control that. Thanks to all the folks who said they've missed the Sperling sick of it series, whether it's in video or written format. Don't always have time to do it. Maybe this little quick video mid spoiler season format brings it to us more often, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's talk about what we've seen so far in terms of things to be sick of. All right. I'm going to go over some of the design principles that I feel like, I don't know if the people that were around when these principles were laid out got laid off. I don't know if they're just, these things aren't winning out to the almighty dollar. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes, but I think there's some pretty clear gaps between where you might want to aim your design principles and attempts and then where they're aiming for this. I'm going to talk about that concept a lot. Like, where are we aiming? Because ultimately, think about it this way. You're going to try to design something. You have to put some kind of error bar around what is the actual power level, impact, and effect of what I produce within on any spectrum I'm designing on. So particularly power level. So if I'm aiming in the wrong place and that I slip to one edge or the other of that sort of error bar, there's a problem. So first of all, let's talk about what were key design principles for MH1 and MH2. And I don't know if this stuff's been explicitly stated, probably has, or if it's just like obvious from the cards. But either way, I don't think the principles themselves are controversial. Any of the ones I'm going to be talking about. For MH1 and MH2, it's like we're going to bring these pitch spells, these free spells into modern, where normally they had existed in legacy and vintage. But in doing so, we're going to be really careful to avoid proactive stuff that can, end the game quickly or snowball. And we're going to make the free stuff reactive stuff. That way, the free aspect of it prolongs the game. It makes the game more interactive, not less, etc., etc. So when we print a counter spell, if it's Force of Negation, I can only use it on my opponent's turn. If it's Subtlety, it's countering their permanence or putting them on top. So that's like a pretty important sort of safety valve. You want to look at that way, or design principle, or place your aiming, however you want to describe it. Force of Vigor, you're blowing stuff up. Same goes for Fury, same goes for Solitude, right? So Grief and Fury had a problem, and Grief still has the problem that they sort of get to be proactive in the sense that you can scam them back into play, right? So that's an issue, but that's not the topic of today's. But okay, well, I guess it touches on the same topic, because why is that sort of now problematic where Fury had to get banned and maybe Grief should have been banned or it will be banned? It's because these free spells are giving you that proactive element as well. It's actually shortening the game. It's making the games feel less different, less interactive. So what do we have spoiled so far for Modern Horizons 3? Well, you've got something that ramps lands onto the battlefield, a counterspell that just simply doesn't have that use only the opponent's turn restriction, something that copies a spell, so that could be used to combo off in a storm deck of some kind or some other combo. Maybe one or more of these is going to miss, especially Flare of Duplication. I mean, that one's more likely to miss than the other two. And so maybe the ultimate end result here is that you miss and they're not. But okay, that's obviously not where this like splashy free cycle is aimed. These are sort of headline type of cards for a set like this. I just don't get it. Why are we aiming here? What happens if we miss? What happens if all of a sudden, playing Arboreal Grazer and then sacking it and like just trying to get that broken opening draw is like a thing that you're really interested in? Is that a good direction for the format? If it's not, I mean, don't we sort of know that that's not the right place to aim? So that's the first thing I'm worried about here. It seems like we've sort of lost what was an important focus in the first two Modern Horizons sets. Next, a key design principle for Modern Horizons 3. Now you can just tell just from looking at the spoiler that this is just how these sets are approached. I mean, aim for really powerful cards, but aim to get those powerful cards into new archetypes or decks or out of fashion archetypes or decks. So, Merfolk can get a powerful card, but Scam, shouldn't. You can think about Eldrazi can get a powerful card, but maybe like Stocktron doesn't need, or maybe whatever the case may be. I mean, these examples of what decks are already considered tier 1 are going to be on the list of decks that probably aren't getting something new and splashy and cool. And the deck that used to be popular years ago or that doesn't exist yet, some new thing, okay, that's where a lot of the power is going. And so then we get Phyrexian Tower, right? The preview card that they forgot to give to Aspiring Spike until everyone reminded them on Twitter, and then they remembered. Phyrexian Tower, tap, sack a creature, add black. Well, we don't love missing on the power level of a land that makes 2 mana. Not a great place to miss, so we're aiming there. It's not a great place to miss like a really powerful legendary land that you might want to play multiple copies of. It's a really bad player experience to draw multiples, to feel compelled to play multiples and try to get it. Leads to a bad player experience, usually not a place you want to aim either. And then what is like this card going to be good with? Yeah, it could be good with a lot of stuff because it's a really powerful card and it's just a land, but it's going to be awesome with these cards on the screen right here that are obviously like tier 1 enablers or to some extent even payoffs. I mean, wow. This is like the S tier in some respects. You're talking about Grief, Bowmasters, a deck like Yawgmoth. This is, again, it's like, I don't know. I don't know that we're putting our eggs in the right basket when we put Phyrexian Tower into a set and look at the metagame, look at what it does, even just like the fact that it's going to create some insane opening draws that involve Grief, a card that is already like maybe the next card that would get banned. Bowmasters would be up there too. So anyways, it just seems to violate that principle to me that and then what happens again, another thing, if you miss this way, and let's say you miss low on some of the new stuff. Let's say like these things, these flares don't do what you hope they did. You're just going to see more Yawgmoth. You're going to have to ban something from that deck. That's great. That's just what you want to see. All right, had to pause it, get something to drink. Was ranting too hard, my throat got dry. All right, apologies for that. So, what were we talking about? Oh, just the fact that you're going to lose to the Yawgmoth over and over again, unless some of these other cards that are aimed in crazy directions end up being broken. But, all right, let's go. Key design principle for any set. Don't aim where you can't miss. So I've been alluding to this over and over again, right? Another one while we're at it. Coin flipping is in-your-face variance rather than subtle variance. So you want there to be variation between the games. You want there to be some dynamics where, you know, the weaker deck or the weaker player can beat the stronger deck or stronger player because things, but you don't want it to be so in your face that it's like flip a coin, you know, you get some insane effect if you win the flip. If you like, that's just it's known that that's not the right way to do it. You don't want to have things like, you know, Miracle and look at the top 6 cards and find something. These things that are just really in your face and obvious, like, I can't believe I missed it again. Or, you know, having to win the die roll to have a shot. Like, there's a lot of ways that you just want what's happening to be more subtle than that. You want it to be small things that sort of increment that luck dial in a less visible way. So they have that effect, but not like it doesn't just slap you in the face and feel like you lost your agency in the game because this random element loomed so large in whatever card you were playing. So what do we have spoiled? This is what led me to want to make this video. This card, Invert Polarity. Now, I don't know. I mean, again, it's where you're aiming. Think about that power level. Maybe this card's going to be weaker than it looks. Maybe it's going to be stronger than it looks. Maybe you and I don't think it looks the same, so there's a disagreement there. But I mean, this is one of the rares in the set. It looks pretty strong to me. Counter target spell, then flip a coin. If you win the flip, gain control of that spell, and you may choose new targets for it. If you lose the flip, counter that spell. I mean, this card is like absurdly powerful if you win the flip. It's not. They gave you a floor of counter the spell, you know, cancel, and obviously like that's not what you're looking to do in Modern. Archmage Charm lets you know that it's okay sometimes as a floor or as a mode. But like winning, that could be one of the best things to be doing for 3 mana if you win the flip. So if this card either is aimed at being tournament playable or ends up being tournament playable, isn't that a massive problem? You're going to end up in spots where you have to even aim this at a powerful, uncounterable spell because of Cavern or some Eldrazi that's not counterable, or Eldrazi off of Cavern, and now I'm going to cast this card, have a 50% chance of essentially winning the game by stealing it, or just throwing my card in the graveyard, and probably going to lose the game. Is that going to be a good player experience? Is that going to be a good tournament experience? Is this card all that far away? I mean, put this card in a commander set, either at this cost or some other cost. I mean, I don't know. Isn't there a design principle for tournament sets, tournament level cards, and the rares in your Modern Horizon set that it shouldn't be about coin flipping? We've got powerful coin flipping cards. They're in commander sets, Krark the Thumbless, whatever. Now, if it shows up every now and then, if it's on a limited card, you're not going to be seeing it all the time, or it's just sort of like some incremental thing. Flip a coin, it's a little bonus, it's a little bit over or a little bit under. This is just like a wild swing to me, so I don't really get it. Plus, you have that happening alongside. Really, I mean, there's a bunch of cards in the set that are going to bring Aetherworks Marvel back to life. I mean, there's all this stuff that's a new card that makes 2 energy for 1. There's the Amp Raptor is also on the slide. So you're going to have, like, now it's also reviving an archetype that's all about, look at the top 6 cards, and maybe there's an Emrakul in there, maybe not. That type of deck. Not the greatest, again, at the tournament level, and it looks like that's where some of these cards are aimed. Amped Raptor being one of them that both enables Marvel and itself is like this giant die roll, right? I mean, turn 1, I'm going to play a Tune the Ether or the Cantor that adds 2 energy. Turn 2, I'm going to play this. I might hit the 1 ring. I might hit, another Amped Raptor. I might hit something else that I can't cast. If, let's say, I didn't draw that, I don't know. It's just going to be so much randomness in your face if you have some of the most powerful cards in the set or format have this type of random component. Now, I mean, maybe that's preferable to the cascade mechanics thing where it's like you design your deck a certain way and then there's no variance. But think about how much middle ground there is between Violent Outburst and Amped Raptor or Aetherworks Marvel. So there hasn't really, as far as I can see, there's not really enough of a respect for that end of the spectrum that if things get too random, it just feels like players are out of control, and in a tier 1 deck against tier 1 deck matchup, you might end up flipping coins at some point. Birthing Ritual, another card, again, like who knows if the power, it's a mythic, so obviously, like, I think to some extent they believe it's aimed at the tournament level of power, and I'm just going to be crossing my fingers. I mean, again, like, invert polarities shows up large on a slide. I think this is both more in your face and more sort of variance dependent, but I'm worried about everything you see on the slide. Lastly, key design principle for any set. Don't charge your customers a premium MSRP, so a high retail price, which is going to translate to a high singles price, which is going to translate even to a high wholesale price if the price comes down, whatever, for a set they're obligated to buy, and then ban shit because you aimed so close to the edge. So again, be careful where you aim, but also, like, this thing is, it's going to be, these sets always just fundamentally change the Modern format. You can't, like, not participate. I mean, you can not participate in Modern, but if you want to play Modern, keep playing Modern, get into Modern, you're sort of forced to buy this. That's why it's probably a really attractive product for them. Now, if you're going to do that, obviously, like, it makes your job really difficult because you have to, it has to be compelling, but also it has to be at the right power level where you don't have to ban stuff. Yeah, that's a tall order, but you command a premium, price in exchange for that. And so far, I'm just worried that they didn't get it done. Cranial Ramp, maybe that could have been uncommon. You wouldn't have to ban it in Pauper. Well, that hasn't happened yet. Maybe by the time this video comes out, it will have happened. That just seems like it's so automatic. But even outside of that, there are cards that, like, enable these, like, long turn fiddly combos that maybe they're okay, but I think one or more of them probably not. It looks to me like a set full of, I was talking to my team about, when they preview new cards for, like, a Modern Horizons type of set, you got to figure out, is this, like, are these Hogak type of cards, a build around that's either going to be irrelevant or too strong, or, it's like if the deck is a deck, it's potentially problematic, or are these like Solitudes where, yeah, it might be a little bit too powerful, but it just means you're going to blow stuff up at a bigger rate. And it looks like a set full of Hogaks to me. It looks like a set, not that every card is going to be that powerful, but whether maybe I should pair Hogak with a card that didn't make it, but it looks like a bunch of those type of cards. And some of them look like they're closer to the Hagak than the one that missed. So I think that's what you're going to end up with. Customers are going to feel a little bit scammed if you're buying into one of these new archetypes. If you're just buying a set or a booster display or booster case, whatever you need. Again, like you got to spend a lot of money to keep up with Modern when these things come out. I feel like people might end up feeling a little bit scammed. That's what I'm worried about. That's where I think this is headed. That's where I think the signs are pointing right now, and we haven't even seen the whole set. So, yikes. That's where I'm at. Thank you for listening to this edition of Sperling Sick of It for Modern Horizons 3 Part 1. If other cards seem offensive to you, let me know. You can do so on Twitter at Sick of It. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it.